economic status, they change their relationship status, they change their communication status. They change so many things in their lives because they are no longer being held back by the old ideas. Internalized racism.
I'd like to ask you, one of the things that you talk about that's very interesting, and of course, like as you say, other people have discussed it as well. Why is racism and white supremacy bad for white people?
Thank you so much. That is such a powerful question. For one thing, it's a lie. And anytime you build your whole life, your whole system, all of your organizations on the basis of a lie, then half of your life is spent trying to defend, trying to uphold so much of your resources organized around supporting the lie, because you know it's going to fall down. You have to keep, in order to keep somebody down, you have to keep your foot on them. That means you can't move, because you have to stay right there keeping them down. Yes. Another reason that it's bad for white people is because it cuts them off from a part of their humanity. When you believe and when you act on the basis of beliefs about the inhumanity of another group of humans, that shuts you off from part of your humanity. Number three, it keeps you separated from 9/10 of the world's population.
Yes.
White people are 1/10 of the world's population.
Yes.
And when you live in fear, because that's part of what white supremacy does for you, if you believe that you are separate from and superior to all the rest of the people of the world, then you have to build fences.
Yes.
Then you have to cut down
Walls.
bridges. You have to build walls.
Something inside me does not a wall, love, right?
Yeah.
You have to spend so much resources on keeping yourself separate from 9/10 of the rest of the world. And so much of your energy is spent in what I call dealing with the cognitive dissonance. So many white people call themselves Christians, right? And so if you call yourself a Christian, you call yourself a child of, you don't have to call yourself a Christian, just call yourself a child of the universe. And you recognize that the universe, we are all part of this universe.
Yes.
And then you have set yourself apart from the rest of the universe. How do you reconcile those ideas? One, we're all part of the universe. B, I'm separate from the universe. And so you have so much energy reconciling yourself with these two quite opposite ideas,
Yes.
two opposing beliefs. And finally, it makes you question your own humanity when you cannot see the humanity of other humans. And that has to be a damaging and damning situation for white people. So then I said that was finally, but this is finally.
We're cool.
Yeah.
Finally, that you can't be at peace with yourself. And when you can't be at peace with the rest of the world, with the rest of humanity, when you have to spend so much time recognizing how much energy you're spending separating yourself from the rest of the world, when you have to spend so much energy managing this cognitive dissonance, then you cannot be at peace with yourself. And living a life where you are not at peace with yourself cannot be a good way to be in the world.
Yeah, I've had people ask me, and Tyrone, and there'll be people of other races. I even had a white man actually ask me this recently. He said, well, is white supremacy smarter than a whole race of people? How come you guys can't get past it? And what would be your answer to somebody that would say something like that or ask that type of question? Because people really think that's a part of their thought process is, well, why can't you guys get past it? You guys are supposed to be kings and queens.
Thank you for that question. It's a wonderful question. I want to say something about the kings and queens, but let me begin with the essence of your question. With the intelligence that we have, and with the resources that we have, and with the numbers that we have, I said we are 3/4 of the world's population.
The global majority.
Yeah, 3/4
Yes.
of the population. So why haven't we dismantled and overthrown white supremacy? And part of the issue has to do with the ways in which we approach resources and the ways in which we approach our encounters with others, with other human beings. So when one group of people have come with the idea of conquering and colonizing, and they're carrying bullets, and you are encountering them in part with the notion, because remember we were and are a communal people. We believe in people coming together. We believe in community. We believe in collaboration. and you are dealing with a group of people who believe in I, and greed is their primary motivator, whereas for us, community is our primary motivator. And we're working with spears and they're working with bullets.
Yes.
The situation is not in our favor.
Mhm.
So we're trying to work on collaboration. They're trying to work on acquisition,
Mhm.
which turns into colonization,
Mhm.
which turns into subordination and subjectivity. And so over the course of history, they have had access and they have usurped access to resources, whereas we have been trying to deal with community, with our holding on to our humanity, holding on to our connections with each other, holding on to our connections with the universe. One difficulty is that many white people assume that as soon as Black people, I'll just say Black people, I think that they have this idea about other people of the global majority, but in this case, I will speak specifically about Black people, assume that as soon as Black people get a little bit of power, that they in turn will turn around and do exactly what white people have done over the years. And so they feel that they can't really afford to let Black people get in power because you know who can't get out of office because he can't pardon themselves.
You're fine.
Yeah.
We got some callers here. We got some callers here. Participate and some have been holding. Let's go. You were on with Dr. Love. That sounds funny.
That's a great name.
Dr. Love.
You're on with Dr. Barbara Love. Dr. Barbara Love. And we are discussing healing from internalized racism. Good morning, caller. You're on. We're KCOH 1230.
And let's give the numbers.
713-668-1230. Caller, you're on. Hello, caller, you're on. Maybe stepped away. Hello, maybe stepped away from the phone, so we'll give them a break on that. Let's do this one. Hello, caller, you're on. They may have been there. It happens from time to time. People get enthralled with the conversation, and while they're listening, if they're far away from their radio.
Oh, we got another one.
There's another one. Let's come back. Hello, caller, you're on. And yet, hello, caller. Yes, there you are. Hello, you're on. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
It's like racism is like an open wound, and I don't think it can heal until we actually address it. And we do have to confront situations. I know, we are people who have been taught that if we just pray and be a good person, then things will change. But, prayer without work is dead. And so I think in order to heal, we have to be more aggressive. I'm not talking about fighting and arguing and all of that, but we have to confront situations because we cannot heal from racism if racism doesn't change.
Okay, thank you. Let's get a response from Dr. Love.
That includes contradiction. We cannot heal from racism unless racism changes. That puts all the power for us on somebody else.
Yeah.
In other words, we can't take charge of our situation unless somebody else does something. And part of what I'm proposing is that we get to take charge of our healing. And the people who are practicing racism don't really have a vested interest in changing it. Only we have a vested interest in changing racism. So we have to change racism, and the only way that we're going to be able to change racism is to empower ourselves. And the only way that we're going to empower ourselves, I agree with you that fighting and so on is not the direction, it's not the answer, it will not accomplish the results that we want. So we're going to have to do some healing so that we can step into the empowerment that is required to change racism. Racism is waiting for us to change. It will not change until we do it, and we cannot do it until we do some healing.
You're listening to 1230 KCOH Houston. And we're back to our phone lines. You're on with Dr. Love. Good morning, 1230 KCOH. Brothers over DK Kamal, Tyrone Irvin, and my man Maurice right here with us. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Caller, you're on.
I just wanted to add my little 2 cents worth into this narrative about racism. I taught kindergarten, first grade for 35 years, and I found that racism begins in kindergarten. And they teach their children racism through fairy tales. One of the most insidious fairy tales is Jack and the Beanstalk. And when I was teaching the children about Jack and the Beanstalk, I had posters that I put up. But Dr. DK knows me. I would put this poster up and I painted the giant is black and the children is white. Now, I told the children that Jack was a thief. And I told the children that anytime you take something from someone else that does not belong to you, you are a thief. And believe it or not, the children went home and told the parents and said everything else. I understood some other incidents that had gone on in my head position out there, but they can't stand for you to tell their children the truth. They don't want their children to know the truth, and they start teaching them in kindergarten. I'm telling you, because I've taught for 35 years. And all of these private schools, I taught Montessori and Woodlands and Sugar Land and Real Oaks, and these people don't want their children to know the truth. They want them to, they learn their children racism and manifest destiny in kindergarten. And that's just a little incident that I wanted to relate to the public here.
Well, we certainly thank you for weaponizing Jack and
the Beanstalk.
And Goldilocks is next.
That's a counter weapon.
Yeah.
Dr. Love, what do you think about using education to undo it? That's a major part of it.
Absolutely, education is important. Thank you for that story. The only part of your comment that I would extend is to say it starts long before kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
Long before kindergarten. Because they read those stories and it starts for them and it starts for us also. Whatever they are learning, we are learning the same thing.
I think there are plenty of Black men particularly who will tell you they have been, this has happened to me more than once. I've been out in a park or where toddlers preschool kids who would say, and as a matter of fact, on 2 occasions the exact words were, "Look, Daddy," and "in." You know, I mean, and they were just they had no concept of it.
In some of my classes at the university, I would ask people, and these were mostly white students, to talk about their experiences learning about race. And I have many stories to tell, but there's one story. This young man said he was 2. And he went shopping with his mother, and she put him on a counter while she looked through some things in the bin. He said he saw a Black man come in the store, and so he said, "Look, Mom, a Black man." She slapped her hand over his mouth. She rushed him out of the store. I said, "And so you learned to be really comfortable around Black men, didn't you?" There's so many ways that we learn who to be afraid of. We learn how we're supposed to react to people. And you mentioned Jack and the Beanstalk. How about Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs? Or how about the Ugly Duckling? Y'all remember the story of the Ugly Duckling? So there's a duck in the barnyard, and he is despised and spat upon because he's ugly, he's mistreated, he goes away for a season, and this duck is black. He's just mistreated. Even the farmer mistreats the poor duck. The duck goes away for a season, he comes back to the barnyard, and now everybody loves him. Everybody wants to be with him. Everybody wants him to be a part of their group because the duck has miraculously been transformed to white. And so we read those stories. Not just that white people read those stories. We read those stories. And we learned to prefer whiteness. We learned to prefer straight hair. We learned to color our hair something different so that we can look more like the preferred color.
We internalized
We learned to bleach our hair so that we look more like the preferred color. We learned to do all sorts of things so that we can move away from being Black and move closer to being white. And it's understandable. If you're going to be abused and spat upon and despised and mistreated, well, wouldn't you want to be more like the people who are going to get the goodies?
Right.
Wouldn't you want to be more like the people who are going to get the apartment?
When you use the term internalize, you bring it to life right there, because it appears to me that underneath all of that, the central question remains for you. And that question is, why am I not, quote, good enough? Because now you've accepted an external standard. You can't be white. And so then the question for you is, and I think it's one that creates intrapsychic discord, is why wasn't I born white? Why wasn't I born white?
In other words, you go crazy.
Why wasn't I born white? What can I do to become white? What can I do to become white? And so if you get from the womb, because you're internalizing things already. Some of us understand that what your mother hears, you hear.
That's
what
right.
your mother experiences, you also do. So, and even if you don't believe that you're internalizing it in the womb, come out of the womb and look at your first pamper box. And who's on the face of your Gerber? You are internalizing notions of normality, of what it means to be a baby, and you look at that and say, well, that's not me. Okay, so who is me? I'm different. And you already learning that difference is not difference, it's deficit.
It's not good.
Difference is something to be compensated for. So already you're learning I'm not good enough. And you spend the rest of your life understanding I'm good enough. I got this job, but I'm not really good enough.
I want to ask you a question.
I'm president, but I'm not good enough.
You mentioned, and I'm just focusing in on this one because it's one we commonly know. You just mentioned the Gerber baby. Did you see where the company, for the first time, shows a baby that looks more like
ambiguous.
Ambiguous.
That's the word. Now, what does that say about the effort of society to catch up? Do you think that's does that in any small way acknowledge?
It's a half a step.
It's a half
It's
step.
a half a step,
Okay.
and a half a step
And
is
this
better
ain't
than no
music.
step at all. I believe that half a step is better than no step at all. Movement is movement. Not enough. Not in time. And it also indicates that the efforts on our parts have not been for naught. We have to keep moving. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep requesting. We have to keep advocating for change, because even in incremental stages, change is still good. But it also suggests that we're going to have to change our tactics, because we need to move things faster. We need to move things a little bit faster.
Look, these lines are. Yeah. Hello, caller. You're on. How are you? Hello. Hello. Yes. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Dr. Love, Dr. Barbara Love. Oh, I'm sorry. We were talking here. My apologies. Okay. Okay.
I try not to comment on that. I don't understand it fully enough to say yay or nay. So I actually hold back on commenting on it.
Okay. Well,
Thank you for asking, though.
Well, let me put my response this way, because I'm in agreement with much of your observations, but I do think that is important for context. So, if your earliest convenience, maybe you could bring someone else who is one of her advocates. I can't think of her name right now. I think it's me. I can use the name of one of the people who are presumably are advocates and acolyte on something along the line of post-traumatic slave disorder.
Yep.
Oh, Dr. DeGroy?
Joy
DeGroy. Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes, and her notions, I think, are absolutely correct. We know a lot more. Since she started that work, we've understood a lot more about the effects of post-traumatic stress syndrome. And in fact, if you go back to Dr. Chester Pierce, who actually originated that idea and that work. Dr. Pierce was a psychologist at Harvard, a black psychologist at Harvard. He was doing among the Eskimos in the Arctic and looking at the effects of living under extreme conditions on those people. And as he reported his research, he started to observe that what he saw amongst the Eskimo in the Arctic was exactly what he saw in Newark, New Jersey, among the people that he grew up with. And he understood then that the effects of trauma on the life experience of people, their attitudes, their ability to function in the world, and he started to report on that. So we have a much broader understanding now of the effects of trauma on the psyche and the health and the ability to function on human beings. And we have a much broader understanding now of the ways in which oppressive conditions, conditions of subordination and domination, conditions of oppression, racism, in this case, we're talking about racism, the effect that it has on humans.
And it could be passed down intergenerationally as well?
It doesn't, in my understanding, it does not get passed down in the genes, it gets passed down in the living conditions.
In the living
so
conditions, okay.
Or intergenerationally in the same apartment, in the same project, in the same community. And the conditions that your grandparents faced are exactly the same set of conditions that you have faced. And so you get the same results.
And also you have internalized your elders' response to these conditions, which you are often imitate. You know something, and we're not gonna even be able to start touching on it. But we maybe have to get you on the phone so we can get into the culture. We got to get in the culture. It's just,
look, yes. I mean, so.
But I mean, not now. It's too deep to.
Let me say one thing about culture. And that is when we recognize that culture is the ways that people, a group of people have developed to respond to the conditions under which they find themselves. And some of those conditions, some of those responses are liberatory and some of those responses are not, but they are nevertheless a part of the culture. And when we insist on sticking with some piece of the culture that was developed to respond to some difficult conditions that are not liberatory, we set ourselves up to repeat those conditions and to exacerbate those conditions. I will stop. So my people, our people, black people, learn to love chitlins. I love chitlins. Well, I actually don't eat them no more. I love chitlins. I don't like cod. You look at me like, what is cod? It's fish, all right? And it's low in carbohydrates, it's low in fatty acids, it's good for your heart, it's good for your health. Chitlins, on the contrary, are not. So, in my culture, what will I prefer? Chitlins, not cod. What will chitlins do for me? High blood pressure, hypertension, early death, right? So, if I stick with my culture, that's not going to bode well for my future. So one of the things that we have to do is start examining our culture to see the places where we have developed maladaptive responses that do not lead us to health, do not lead us to liberation, but which lead us into repetitive cycles of decline.
I think changing the culture is one of the most difficult things that you could even try to do.
Absolutely.
Especially the parts that were rooted in survival.
Well, because it feels like a betrayal of your family. There's a familial aspect to that. Look, let me get this caller in. Hello, caller, you on? We're blessed. How are you?
What's going on, man?
Yes. Okay, let's get a response. Dr. Love?
Thank you for your comments, and I understand the points that you are making. The thing that I ask you to consider is whether or not we wish to choose a powerlessness response, whether or not we want to live our lives from a position of powerlessness, whether we want to create a future for ourselves and our people from a position of powerlessness. I am not asking us to heal racism. I am asking us to heal the internalization of the racism and the ways in which having internalized it keeps us from considering ourselves powerful enough to change the world.
Yes.
If we can build pyramids, I'm pretty sure we can change the world.
All right, we're gonna take another call, and then we will return to the exchange. Brothers over DK, Tyrone, Maurice, and Dr. Love. Good morning, caller. You're speaking with Dr. Barbara Love here on KCOH 1230. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. Go ahead, Ray.
One of those moments where change.
Yes.
One of the aspects is about moving forward.
Yes.
Mhm.
Talking about this, things that we can change them, but I'm saying that we are change. I'm actually talking to that. So, and I'm trying.
You talk in a way, at least where you can catch people's attention. We understand money and dollars. But when we can start to build something for us, we can also help self-heal ourselves. We can invite people like this in for lunch, for an audience that we employ, that we hire, and begin to heal and build. Because staying in this system is killing us. Unfortunately, I really see us right now as the people that only want to advance ourselves through this system of racism. I'm not saying separate the text, I'm saying, but be like normal people. So I'm listening because I've been affected by this, right?
Yes.
But I'm dragging myself right up.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But many of the people that I encounter that are black are saying, I don't see any black people over the and I'm saying, build your own.
Yes. Yeah.
That's one of the ways.
Okay, let's get a response from Dr. Love.
Yes, as I understand what
Yes.
we have to be in charge of our healing so that we can be in charge of our empowerment, so that we can create a future that is to our own liking. And no, we cannot wait for others to do it for us. No, we cannot assume that those who are the beneficiaries of white privilege and racism are going to change it. But we can assume, if we decide that we will not settle for powerlessness, which in my opinion is one of the tenets of white supremacy, if we're going to disinternalize that idea and assume that we can be in charge of our own future, except that we have to recognize that doing that requires us to do some healing. It is having internalized the racism, the ideas that whites are superior, that whites have privilege, that whites are intelligent, that whites are brilliant,
And that they deserve it.
and that they deserve it, and that we do not. Having internalized those ideas keeps us from being able to see ourselves as powerful, and therefore being able to act in the world in that way. If we cannot see it, we cannot do it. If we cannot see ourselves as powerful, we cannot act in the world in a way that is powerful. So do our own healing, and do our own empowerment, and do our own changing of the world.
All right. Listen, we have. I'll tell you, we almost have. This is one of those days where we almost have too much show.
Yeah, we don't have enough time.
Yesterday we had. But interestingly enough, these ideas converge here. The subject matter. Yesterday, as many of you know, we normally have Jeffrey Boney, the councilman and 4 times associate editor, calling in. And the guest yesterday was scheduled to be Catherine Swilly. Kathy Swilly, who is a former police officer for 20 years with HISD, HPD, and she went through trials there, and since for over a decade now has been fighting with the with HPD.
Uh-huh.
And there is an affair that they're having tomorrow. We're going to have her as a guest. And I know there'll be plenty of people upset that we have to interrupt this conversation. But what we are going to do, beyond that, is we are going to have another extended conversation with Dr. Love. And we are also going to introduce Ms. Jennifer Holmes. Yes, okay, because we want you to have on these things as well. So as we wrap up, we're going to let Oladike and Tyrone wrap up the conversations here. But please continue with the question.
Well, I just want to, if we have time, I'd like to ask one more question. That there's so many questions you could ask. I just want you to speak to the role that violence plays in white supremacy.
Violence, and I will add the threat of violence, because sometimes they don't need to be violent, they just need to think and or believe or understand that they will be violent, has been used, to establish white supremacy, white power, and violence and the threat of violence is used to maintain it. If we think about Houston as an example, or the South as an example, we are no longer living in the age of vigilantes. We're no longer living in the age of enforced servitude, where Black people had no rights that a white person need respect, and that was kept in line. We're no longer living in the age of, presumably, we're no longer living in the age of Jim Crow, when white people could ride in sheets, and violence and the threat of violence would keep people in line. But now we're living in the age where police serve that function. And again, of violence. A Black man can pull up to a stoplight and not be sure if the police approaches him, they will be able to survive that encounter. They might not get out of it. And it is that fear of violence that is also used to keep people in line. Now, what do we do about that? Part of what we have to do is to heal, and here once again we're talking about the intergenerational installation of fear of violence that we have to heal within ourselves and within our community, so that we can develop a sense of responses that will effectively change that situation. We have not yet understood completely so that we can figure out the responses that are going to make a change. We have the models of Martin Luther King, we have the model of Malcolm X, we have the model of a Marcus Garvey, we have the model of a Booker T. Washington. We have these models, and we need to learn what we can from these models. And from this, we need to be able to adapt and develop the model that is going to be responsive in this age to change that situation. I mean, violence and the threat of it keeps us immobile, and it keeps us feeling powerless.
Okay, Dr. Love, I have a question. I think sometimes I feel like we're stuck sometimes in place due to things that have happened in the past. And I often say it seems like white supremacy could take a vacation until we heal ourselves. And do you think that I'm crazy for thinking that? Because a lot of people say, well, no, it doesn't work like that. But I feel like if we don't heal ourselves, it's already there, so we're just going to stay in the hamster wheel.
No, you're not crazy. You're simply making an observation about reality. This is what we actually see in our lives and in our world. And I think that we can't come up with a new and appropriate and effective response until we do some healing. Otherwise, we'll just keep doing what we've always done. And as we know, if you keep on doing what you've always done, you'll keep on doing what you've always got. So we've got to come up with something different. It's going to make the difference for us.
So is it safe for me to say that I can't rely on white people to do the bidding or the healing for Black people, because why would they? They're worried about themselves.
They're worried about themselves. And even if they wanted to, this is not their work. To heal where they have internalized the notions of racism, where they have internalized the ideology of white supremacy. That is their work. Our work is to heal where we have internalized those ideas and where it affects our understanding of ourselves and our world.
All right, then, look, we have a caller on the line?
Yes, I want this.
Oh, okay.
All right, we got a caller on the line. You there, Shelby?
Yes, I'm right here.
How are you? Go ahead.
I'm good. I'm good. I think that a guy called earlier and he asked about since we didn't create the construct, how can we solve it or how can we change it? If the people that were in Birmingham in 1963 did march, then we may not have the civil rights today. You can always change the calculus. And changing the calculus does not mean that you can change evil people's heart, but you can construct rules and checks and balances to prevent a lot of the things that they do that affect negatively towards you.
Okay.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Go ahead, Dr. Love. We're gonna let you answer this one. Go to the next call. We got quite a few. Thanks for the call. Go ahead, Dr. Love.
Yeah, I'm just saying I completely agree. And that is our work. Our work is to do the healing that frees up our energy, frees us up from the fear of violence, frees up our thinking, frees up our understanding of our own ability to affect change so that we can do things like the Birmingham March, so that we can make change.
Are we going back to the phone?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Look, we are forced time. I mean, boy, you got these phones lit up.
Yes, yeah,
Look like a call center.
Yes.
Dr. Love, I want to say thank you for coming by to KCOH and hanging out with us for a while this morning. We are going to have to get Jennifer over here because, as you said, she is working with groups to do the work of trying to root out this internalized racism and to replace it with sense of
empowerment, sense of self, sense of our own confidence, and brilliance in our beauty. She's doing that work, so we definitely want people to be able to be in touch with her because she's organizing that work. And she says that it's okay to put out her number here, so if you're interested in being part of such a group, call Jennifer Holmes, 281-798-3562. That's Jennifer Holmes, 281-798-3562. She's organizing those groups. She's happy to have people join. She's looking forward to training more people so that more groups can get started, so that more and more of us can do the healing work of reclaiming our power, our brilliance, and our connection.
How can people get your pamphlet? And let me give them the exact, of course, Amazon. Understanding and Healing the Effects of Internalized Racism, Strategies for Black Liberation. This is written by Dr. Barbara Love, and she is so much humility is involved. I know the first time I read it, I didn't know who the author was until I got to the last page.
It was done with love.
Done with love. How would they get that? Should they ask Jennifer when they come?
Ask Jennifer for copies. They can contact me, BJLOBE413@gmail. You can get it from Jennifer.
Give her number one more time, please.
Jennifer's number, 281-798-3562. Or directly from me, BJLOBE413@gmail.com.
All right, then.
All right, listen, man, I want to thank you for,
being here.
we've enjoyed having you. It's
Immensely.
an understatement. That's like calling the Grand Canyon a hole. This has been enlightening. And let me say this to some